sure. As I think what you can gather from it as you look at it, it was a way for God to lead his people. That's kind of what I get from it. And it's not brought up very often. Just a few different times is those two things brought up. So let's start in verse number 1. And take thou unto thee Aaron thy brother, and his sons with him, from among the children of Israel, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. Even Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu. Now remember those two names. Them two are knuckleheads, as you'll find out in the book of Leviticus. Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar, Aaron's sons. So here's the thing. As you look at that right there, I put this out beside, I wrote this down in my Bible, the chosen out of the chosen. Because there is more involved with a chosen nation. There is a group of men that have just been called out. They have been chosen by God to minister unto him, to lead, to be the priest. Aaron be the high priest, and then his sons be the priest to help officiate some of the other things that would be going on. But Aaron would be the only one, the only high priest at this time to be allowed into the Holy of Holies, but that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. What I think is interesting about that phrase, it mentions it four times in this chapter. So why do I think that's interesting? Well, it's not because of your accolades or your talent. It's because God chose you. And here's the thing. God chose each and every single one of us for a certain thing to do, and honestly, things to do in this world for him. And it's not because you're such a great person or this or that. No, he would choose the people that we would not choose. You know, the guy that gets picked last to play Red Rover, right? You've no doubt, maybe one of you, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to pick on you, but maybe you're the last one to play sports. You remember how out on the recess, all the guys would gather around, yeah, I'll take him, and I'll take him, and you had two team captains. Generally, the team captains were the best players, and they'd be like, yeah, I'll pick him, and they would start with who? The worst? No, the best, right? And there was always that one kid. And honestly, a lot of times people would look at him like, well, what are you even doing over here? You know you're going to get picked last. And they would kind of like throw him on the team for now they have 8 people, but we've got 7 and we're going to kill them. So, it's kind of like that. That's the guy that God would pick. I mean, that was David. That was Paul. Paul, I'm just going to tell you, I would not pick Paul to be on my team pre-Damascus Road. But verse 2, and thou shalt make holy garments for Aaron thy brother, for glory and for beauty. Could you imagine seeing this? We've got depictions, and you can go on to Google and look up images, and you'll see a blue thousand different ways of how the Jerusalem Daily would look at what the high priest would have on, and it's pretty amazing to see just how ornate and how well constructed, and I mean, literally, like he says right there, for glory and for beauty. You would look at Aaron and you'd be like, wow, who is that guy? Who's that? I mean, it has to be somebody, right? And what would you say? That's the guy that God had picked to come before him to bring our sin. What a responsibility, right? Let me tell you something. This was not a job to be taken lightly. He was literally, what you're going to find out here is, he's going to be carrying the names on his shoulders and on his chest of the tribes of Israel, and coming in to meet a holy God in a place that literally had to have pomegranates and bells on him. And if you didn't hear the sound of the bells tinkling, He's probably dead. Now, I don't think, you may correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's any time in the Bible that it tells us that one of the priests died. I don't think so. But I've heard, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard that they would tie a rope to his leg, and in case if he did die, drag him out, because they ain't going in there. I don't know. I guess just let him stay back there, because they couldn't go back there to get him. But pretty amazing. And now, is that in the Bible? I don't think it is. Yeah. But how else are you going to get him out? No, you go. No, you go. Right? I don't even know if I'd want to touch the rope. I'm just going to be honest with you. But he says in verse 3, "And thou shalt speak unto all that are wise-hearted." Now, let's stop for just a second. What's going on down at the bottom of the mountain? And who's helping them do it? Aaron. What a liar. Right? John, he kills me every time when you read it in Exodus. It's like Aaron's just like, he kind of insinuates that it's just like, we threw it in there, poof, it made it. Right? And when you go to that, I can't remember I want to say it's like chapter 32, but he's just like, poof, it just, it come out. And God, it's like, that's not how it works. They literally, and we're crafting this thing. It took some, but here's the thing, up on the mountain, God knows everything that's going on, and he's still telling Moses, hey, your brother, the one that's 3 years older than you, isn't it interesting that he says, I'm going to use your brother, I've used you, and I've used your sister? Isn't that interesting? And so he says, I'm going to use your brother, that rotten scumbag, and his sons. I know what he's doing down there, but I'm still going to use him. I think that's amazing. Listen, he knows what you've done, and he'll still use you. I think that's important to note. He says in verse 3, "And thou shalt speak unto all that are wise-hearted, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom." Now, that is, what is that talking about? Well, in the rest of that verse, it tells you that the spirit of wisdom in these people is the abilities to be able to craft these things that God says, I want you to talk with these people and put them in charge in making this. Now, where did they get that from? Of course, from God. Right. Whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they may make Aaron's garments to consecrate him, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. And these are the garments which they shall make: a breastplate, an ephod, and an ephod would simply be an apron, and a robe, an embroidered coat, a mitre, a turban, and a girdle. And they shall make holy garments for Aaron thy brother and his sons, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. So this is what God says, Moses, this is what you're going to do. You're going to make this, and this, and I'm going to explain to you now how these things should be made. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read through it, and then you're just going to have to piece it together in your mind, because this would take absolutely forever to get through and stop and talk about every single verse. So I'm not going to do that to you. Here's what I would suggest you do. I don't even care if you do it as I'm reading this. If you want to get on your phone, or if you tablet or whatever you're using, and look up a picture of what this would possibly look like, I think it would be a big help to, as you hear it, to be like, oh, okay, well that's that piece, and that's that piece, and that's that piece. Because it's pretty amazing to see what this guy would look like. Here's what I do know. They have found a bell that a priest would have wore, and it was roughly about 15 years ago that they found it. And it's not very big, but as the Bible says, here's what I want you to do. Put a pomegranate and a bell, a pomegranate and a bell. And they did that. And then it says as he walked in, the sound. So they would know, hey, he's still alive. You know how they check for if coal mines had certain gases in them? You put a canary bird in a cage and put it over if it comes back up dead, you don't hear it no more. It's not safe for you to go. So Aaron, you go ahead and go on in there. And then if we don't hear nothing, we know something bad has happened. But could you imagine dying in the Holy of Holies? I don't think I'd rather die in a place any greater. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? I mean, literally, it would be like you're just changing locations. You get to heaven, it's going to be exactly probably like that anyway, so might as well just enjoy it while you're in there. He says, verse 5, and they shall take gold and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen. And now verses 6 through 14 talks about the ephod and the things that will be attached to it. They shall make the ephod of gold, of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet, and fine twined linen with cunning work. We're talking about a bunch of farmers, guys, that are going to do this. They are literally, this is not their occupation. Nothing against farmers, but this is not their occupation. They don't do these things. But God has instilled them to be able to produce what He wants done. And it says in verse 7, it shall have 2 shoulder pieces thereof, joined at the 2 edges thereof, and so it shall be joined together. And the curious girdle, or the interwoven sash of the ephod, which is upon it, shall be of the same, so to be just like it, according to the work thereof, even of gold, of blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen. And thou shalt take 2 onyx stones, and grave on them the names of the children of Israel, 6 of their names on one stone, and the other 6 names of the rest on the other stone, according to their birth, with the work of an engraver in stone. I love that. Verse 10, according to their birth. What do they want to do today? I was born a guy, but I want to be a girl. I was born of the tribe of Judah, but man, I'd rather be a Levite. So, no, God says that it's how you were born. Amen. Verse number 11, with the work of an engraver in stone, like the engravings of a signet, and that would be like a signet ring, shalt thou engrave the 2 stones with the names of the children of Israel. Thou shalt make them to be set in ouches of gold, and that is simply, they would work the gold to where they'd be able to set a gem down in it. And thou shalt put the 2 stones upon the shoulders of the ephod for stones of memorial unto the children of Israel, and Aaron shall bear their names before the Lord upon his 2 shoulders for a memorial. So, Aaron would have this breastplate and this apron and all this girdle, everything, the turban or the mitre, whatever you want to call it. He would have all this stuff on, and the first thing that God starts really developing is, hey, there's the ephod, but I really want you to focus in on two onyx stones, 1 on each side. And on each stone, I want 6 names of the tribes of Israel. And on the other stone, I want the other 6 names of the tribes of Israel. What is that symbolic of? What is Aaron doing? That's a symbol of something. He is bearing the weight of the world, essentially, on his shoulders before God, or at least God's chosen people. And he is the representative of the people that's on his shoulders. And so in verse 13, thou shalt make ouches of gold, and 2 chains of pure gold at the ends of... Now, here's the thing. All this is going to make sense at the end, I hope. But we just got to get to the end to be able to unpack it and develop it and look at it and say, oh yeah, it kind of makes sense now. So keep that in mind. Yeah, good idea. Keep that in mind, the shoulders, okay? Verse 14, and 2 chains of pure gold at the ends of the wreathen work shalt thou make them, and fasten the wreathen chains to the ouches. And thou shalt make the breastplate of judgment with cunning work. After the work of the ephod thou shalt make it of gold, of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet, and of fine twined linen shalt thou make it. 4 square it shall be, so it be square, it shall be, being doubled, a span. A span is roughly half a cubit. So they consider a cubit to be about 18 inches from your elbow to the tips of your fingers. Unless you've got little arms like I got, then it's like 16 inches. So I have to add 2. Carry the 2. But they say a span, they say, is roughly from there to there. So roughly 9 inches. I didn't measure. I wanted to measure that today to see if I could do it. And 8? Okay. All right. So, and here's the thing. We're not 100% sure if a cubit's 18 inches or not. So that's just a guesstimate. So it could be 16 inches, and I could be right there with everybody. I don't know. But he says, this is what I want you to make it. We'll call a span 9 inches. A span shall be the length thereof, and a span shall be the breadth thereof. And thou shalt set in it settings of stones, even 4 rows of stones. The first row shall be a sardius, a topaz, and a carbuncle. This shall be the first row. In the second row shall be an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. In the third row a ligure, an agate, and an amethyst. In the fourth row a beryl, and an onyx, and a jasper. They shall be set in gold in their enclosings. Let me ask you something. These stones that he's just mentioned here, would you take those and pitch them across the creek, try and see how many times they'd skip? What kind of stones are these? Precious stones. Well, Well, how does he look at what's going to be inscribed in these stones? The names of the children of Israel? He must think they're pretty precious, don't he? And there's some, and like I said, we'll go through the tabernacle one day, just sit down and do the actual tabernacle, but just little things to note. Now, here's the thing. We're looking at this and we're thinking, oh my goodness, man, it's clothes. It's clothes. I mean, seriously, that's like a lot of people, that's how they just glaze through these. And we think, oh, why was this even in there? Every bit of this points to you, and every bit of this points to him. Every bit of this. Just like the tabernacle itself. It points to him, but it also points to you. So pay close attention. Remember what I said at the beginning of this? How many changes of clothes do you wear? Okay? You're wearing these clothes. You just don't know it. So, verse number 21, and the stone shall be the names with the names of the children of Israel, 12 according to their names, like the engravings of a signet. Every one with his name shall they be according to the 12 tribes. And thou shalt make upon the breastplate chains at the ends of wreathen work of pure gold. And thou shalt make upon the breastplate 2 rings of gold, and shalt put the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. And thou shalt put the 2 wreathen chains of gold in the 2 rings which are on the ends of the breastplate. And the other 2 ends of the 2 wreathen chains thou shalt fasten in the 2 ouches, and put them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod before it. And they shall make 2 rings of gold, and thou shalt put them upon the 2 ends of the breastplate, and the border thereof, which is in the side of the ephod inward. And the 2 other rings of gold thou shalt make, and shalt put them on the 2 sides of the ephod underneath, toward the forepart thereof, over against the other coupling thereof, above the curious girdle of the ephod. You ain't got your phone out, but it makes all sense, don't it? I got a perfect picture of what this will look like. You know, have you ever done one of those ink blot tests where you take the paper and that's what I'm getting, okay? As we just read through this, I'm like, I'd forget the picture that I looked at, and it just looks like an ink blot. I'm sure Moses is like, I can see it now. If I'm Moses, okay. I mean, literally, you know, but here's the thing. Moses has seen this. He's got an advantage that Well, we didn't have. If we just had the Bible and we didn't have Google or any other book that told us how much time would it have taken to draw? I mean, seriously. And here's the thing. What's interesting about this? You know what you don't see listed? Black. Black's not in there. Now, what denomination is that wears black and then a white collar turned around backwards? Why would they do that? Why is it? Adam Clark said it amazingly. Why would God tell them to dress like this and look at how we dress today? He said, it looks like we're going to a funeral home. And we have no joy about us. Maybe because we act like we're going to a funeral home. Our funeral. And God says, listen, he said, and here's the thing, I'm not saying that you got to come in here in a tuxedo on Sunday. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is, this ought to show the inside of us. It ought to show God's glory, right? We are the temple of the living God, right? So what's on the inside should be able to come out. So he says there in verse number, where'd we get to? My wife she done a real good job at telling me where we were at last verse. All right, 28, that's what we'll call it. And they shall bind the breastplate by the rings thereof unto the rings of the ephod with a lace of blue, that it may be above the curious girdle of the ephod, and that the breastplate be not loosed from the ephod. He said, I don't want those things to separate. And now, here's the thing. Did Aaron wear this to bed? No. No, this is just to do the ministry. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know so much if he wore this when he had to grab the sacrifices and stuff. I don't think that this was really got to have that. I think it was like when he was going into the tabernacle itself. Could you imagine trying to get the blood out of this? You'd never do it. It's not like peroxide was around then. So just bear that in mind. He didn't go to bed with this turban on, okay? So just remember that. Verse number 29, Aaron shall bear the names of the children of Israel in the breastplate of judgment upon his heart. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. When he goeth in unto the holy place for a memorial before the Lord continually. And thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and Thummim. Now, Urim means lights, is what I've looked up and what I found, and Thummim means perfection. I've heard, and maybe this is true, I don't know, but this was used in a way almost like casting lots. Both stones would be about the same size, so you couldn't reach in there and feel and pull out the one. Somebody, I can't remember who it was, but somebody said, it's like a magic 8-ball. You know, you shake it and maybe later. And honestly, I mean, literally, that's one way to look at it. He would reach in and behind the breastplate and pull this out, and God would literally direct them and what to do. So if anybody has any insight to that, that's about it. And here's the thing. And when I studied through Leviticus, I looked this up and looked this up and looked this up. And I come back to that same thing every time. I've not really heard anything different. But so verse 30. The Urim and the Thummim, and they shall be upon Aaron's heart when he goeth in before the Lord, and Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel upon his heart before the Lord continually. And thou shalt make the robe of the ephod all of blue, and there shall be an hole in the top of it. In the midst thereof it shall have a binding of woven work round about the whole of it, as it were the whole of a, I don't know how to pronounce that word, habergeon, that it be not rent. And all that is simply like a coat of mail or a coat of armor. That it be not rent, and keep that word in mind too. And beneath, upon the hem of it, thou shalt make pomegranates of blue and of purple and of scarlet round about the hem thereof, and the bells of gold between them round about, and a golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate upon the hem of the robe round about. And it shall be upon Aaron the minister, and his sound shall be heard when he goeth in unto the holy place before the Lord. And when he cometh out, that he die not. And thou shalt make a plate of pure gold, and engrave upon it, like the engravings of a signet, holiness to the Lord. So that would be on the gold piece that would go across what we would call like the headband. It would say holiness to the Lord across there. And I'm sure what that meaning is, I do not know. I don't know. It's possible. It's very possible. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Because if it was hitting against that linen, you probably wouldn't hear it, But yeah, I mean, but whenever you look at pictures that people have made, they're like spaced apart. So I mean, it says right there, bam, 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 bam. I mean, I would think that they would be, if that's what it would be for, was to hit off of that to make it. Because whenever you have a silver coin in your hand with other change, you can hear it. You can hear that silver. It sounds totally different than the rest of the coins. I learned that whenever I was a little kid. My dad got a handful of change given back, and he'd always shake it before he'd stick it in his pocket. And he shook it one time, and you could hear it. It was a totally different tone. And he said, I got a piece of silver in there, and sure enough, Rich, in there, and there's a quarter. So interesting. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but that's probably a strong possibility of why it was like that. So have you ever taken a pomegranate apart? Oh man. It's what's the saying? The gift that keeps on giving. That thing is full of those seeds. And if you're not very careful, they'll bleach your clothes red. But you peel it apart, man, they're just everywhere. And they're good. They're good for you. So I would say that's probably true. It's probably for fruitfulness because there's a lot of it there. Anybody else? All right, we're almost through the chapter. And I got about 15 minutes left. And it shall, verse 38, and it shall be upon Aaron's forehead, that Aaron may bear the iniquity of the holy things, which the children of Israel shall hallow in all their holy gifts, and it shall be always upon his forehead, that they may be accepted before the Lord. And thou shalt embroider the coat of fine linen, and thou shalt make the mitre of fine linen, and thou shalt make the girdle of needlework. And for Aaron's sons that thou shalt make coats, and thou shalt make for them girdles and bonnets, shalt thou make for them for glory and for beauty. And thou shalt put them upon Aaron thy brother, and his sons with him, shall anoint them and consecrate them and sanctify them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. And thou shalt make them linen breeches. That's where we get our word breeches from. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what it's talking about, is breeches. Them linen breeches to cover their nakedness, from the loins even unto the thighs they shall reach, and they shall be upon Aaron, upon his sons, when they come in unto the tabernacle of the congregation, or when they come near unto the altar to minister in the holy place, that they bear not iniquity and die. It shall be a statute forever unto him and his seed after him. So, all right. Anybody got anything? Anybody got any questions? All right. So here's What's this guy got on? He's clothed completely, right? Okay. So he's got something on his head. He's got something covering his body. All right. Now, what is he? By God, by what God said, he is what? A priest. Okay. Do we still have priests today? Better believe it. Sitting here staring at every one of you all. If you're saved, you're a priest. Go to Ephesians. Mm-hmm. Go to Ephesians chapter number 4. Now, if that is the case, actually, I'll tell you what, let me read you 2 verses real quick before you go there. I want to read you 2 verses really, really quick. One is out of 1 Peter chapter number 2. Listen to what he says in verse number 9. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and a holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Now, I want you to listen to what Revelation chapter number 1 says. I learned a long time ago that everybody always says, I need another verse. You give me one, I need another one. I don't know why that is, but listen to what he says in Revelation chapter number 1, verse number 5. And from Jesus Christ, who is the faithful witness and the first begotten of the dead, and the prince of the kings of the earth, unto him that loved us, washed us from our sins in his own blood, and hath made us kings and priests unto God and his Father. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. So, now, if I was to say to you that once you got born again, you become, according to the book of Revelation, you become a king and a priest. So, if you are a priest, and let's go to Ephesians chapter number 4, that's where you're at. So, the Apostle Paul is talking to who? Believers? Ephesus believers. Look at what it says in verse number 1 of chapter 4. I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that ye walk worthy of the vocation wherewith ye are called. What does that mean? Okay, Aaron, walk worthy because I have called you to do this. Okay? Every time you pray, I want you to not only pray for yourself, but I want you to pray for others. So what does that mean? We are to bring others before the Lord. So we got priestly garments on. Whether we see them or not, whether we've taken them off and put them in the washing machine or not, we've got them on. And then look at what it says there. And I think when Paul was writing this, the Holy Spirit was like, talk about being a priest. Look at what it says. So you've been called, you walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you are called, with all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering. What's that next word? Forbearing one another in. Now, okay. So if I'm going to forbear somebody, sometimes I got to put them up on my shoulder, don't I? But you know where else they need to be? On my heart. That's where the love comes in. So what is Paul saying? You're a priest. You're a priest. How do I know I'm a priest? Because you've been called to be one. If you've been born again, you've been called to be a priest. Now, your responsibility is to forbear one another. Love one another. Go to the Lord and other people's, maybe they've sinned against you, maybe they've sinned against God. Have you prayed for anybody that their sins be forgiven them? That they've done, that you know of, that they done it against God, and you said, God, I pray that you would forgive them for them doing that to you. Have you ever done that? That's not very common, is it? That's what Aaron was doing. He literally, he was on his shoulders, it was on his heart. And he worked it out through his hands. He had to take his hands and give that offering, did he not? And you are the hands, and I am the hands. And we're priests. So what's the difference between a priest and a prophet? I think everybody in here knows this. A priest would go before God on man's behalf. So sins of the nation, Aaron would go before, give the sacrifice, get the atonement and cover. That's very important. In the Old Testament, all sins were covered by that sacrifice. They would not be washed clean until Jesus died on the cross. That's why when he descended into the heart of the earth, paradise and hell were in the same general location. There was just a great gulf fixed in between, and he led captivity captive. He took them up to heaven with him. But he says, but a prophet would go before man on God's behalf. So that's the difference. A priest would go before God on man's behalf, and a prophet would go before man on God's behalf. And so, anybody got anything? I hope that helps. Try to make it applicable for us today. About 5 minutes left. You all have the floor now. Here's the thing. You got more than just those clothes on. What does Ephesians chapter 6 say? Put on the armor of God. We look at that and we think, I got to go out and fight these battles. And that's all we think about is when we look at that, we think, man, armor is, I just got to... Here's the thing, that we think we have to put this on. And it does say put on, but really that's in the past tense. All those things are ready and accessible each day. It's not like I got to leave whenever I go to leave the house, I got to put this on. Now you wake up and you say, Lord, these are things that you've already given me at salvation. He doesn't just take them away from you. You have the truth, right? And it says that your loins be girt about with the truth. You have the truth. He's not going to take the truth away from you unless you just throw the Bible away. So these things are already accessible to us. So we have priestly garments on. We have our skin on. We got these clothes on. We've got the armor of God on, but we're also clothed in His righteousness. Now, there could be some other things that I'm not seeing. And maybe that's something that a big study that we could develop one day. But I'm telling you, a lot of these things, we don't even see them. And I think because we don't physically see them, we forget about them. Even though the Bible tells us. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absorbing God's word and using that as my
Yeah. Because all that armor that is listed, none of it is for defending. It's all for offense. Every bit of it. It's all for going straight. It's not for retreat. It's for going straight. So, yes, exactly. That lines up perfect with that. And I was sitting there thinking, as I was looking at this, I was like, okay, so there has to be, that has to link with that some way. And there's a lot of things that you could look at. There's a breastplate in Ephesians 6. There's the helmet of salvation thing. He's got that turban on, holiness to the Lord. There's just a lot of things that you could take and you could apply it. Not saying try and take it out of context to apply it. If it don't link up, it don't link up. But there's just a lot of stuff there that is pretty amazing. All right, anybody got anything? Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Let's certainly remember her. Okay. All right. All right. Let's certainly remember that. All right. Anybody else?